I'm about to go and watch Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This is easily the movie I'm most excited for this month. This is actually one of the movies I'm most excited for in the entire year, and that's in a year that's full of incredibly exciting movies. We got a ton of them coming up. I'm going to go see it. I'm very, very excited, and then I'm going to let you know all of my toxic thoughts. Okay, I just got out of the theater from seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I have a lot of thoughts and opinions. I'm going to be reading a lot of reviews and watching some reviews on YouTube. I will be dropping my review soon and giving you my full opinion as soon as I have figured out what it is. Ant-Man and the Wasp find themselves exploring the quantum realm, interacting with strange new creatures, and embarking on an adventure that pushes them beyond the limits of what they thought was possible. So I needed a few days to figure out what my thoughts on this movie were, but after reading a ton of reviews online, watching some reviews on YouTube, I finally nailed down my opinion on this movie. If you disagree with me, you're wrong, but feel free to tell me how wrong you are in the comment section. I will respond to every single comment. So what is my opinion on the movie that kicks off MCU Phase 5? Gotta be honest, I had a lot of issues with this movie, but I love the MCU, so I'm gonna do my best to be positive. So, this is gonna be a shit sandwich review. We're gonna talk about good things, and then I'll lay out all my problems with no spoilers, of course, and then we'll finish it off with some more good things, and then I'll give it a final score. It's gonna be some thin-ass bread on this sandwich. Nevertheless, we're gonna do our best to be positive here. So we're starting with positives, and I'm going to talk about what everyone has been talking about, and that is Kang the Conqueror. Jonathan Majors really brings his A game to this role. His performance almost transcends the script in a way I can't fully articulate, because if you were to give me the script and have me read Kang's lines, I would probably say, wow, he's a pretty one-dimensional villain who's evil just because he's evil. Yeah, but the way Majors really delivers his performance, he makes Kang a person. Even though he lies and kills, there's a humanness to him, and there's a sincerity and an earnestness to him that makes him come off as a real person and not just an evil dude. That being said, he doesn't compromise the force of nature that is Kang. He is just as terrifying, just as ruthless and merciless as he needs to be. It's very clear from this movie that Kang is powerful, Kang is driven, Kang is ambitious, Kang is sometimes ruled by his passion, but Kang is always dangerous. Obviously, our other villain in here is MODOK, and I'll have more to say about MODOK when we get into the meat of our shit sandwich, if you will, but he really provides some of the best laughs in the movie. He is a comic relief character. He bounces off Paul Rudd really well, and he has a lot of really dumb humor, but all of it I found to be very funny, or most of it I found to be funny. All right, time to get really toxic. The big issue with this movie is its tone, and everyone's been saying this. I've read and seen some people say that the tone is all over the place in this movie. I don't think I agree with that, but I do think this movie definitely has two different tones, and it can't decide which one it wants to go with and kind of just mashes them together, and they're not really compatible. On one hand, we kind of have the laid-back, fun, silly tone of the other two Ant-Man movies, and I love those movies. And on the other hand, we have this new Kang-centric, high-stakes, intense action drama. I love movies like that, too, but you can't really have them in the same movie. Now, I'm pretty confident Peyton Reed wanted to tell a bigger and more important MCU story. I'm not sure if he is trying to do that, but his bag of tricks is more suited to Ant-Man movies, or if he was really trying to go for it, but it's a Kevin Feige problem of him being like, hey, we kind of have to, there still have to be jokes in here. We still have to keep this fun. They wouldn't let him go all the way into hard, intense drama. But either way, the tone shifts from scene to scene, and sometimes from moment to moment, and it kind of breaks the world, because it doesn't break the world, but it breaks the tension. Because if we have intense moment followed by a funny moment, immediately the tense moment isn't as tense and the funny moment isn't funny. And likewise, if we have a funny moment and then intense happens, it's like, whoa, should I have laughed at that? Is this really something serious going on, or is this another joke? It kind of messes with the whole thing in the movie. Now, there's a big debate online right now as to whether the movie should have just been about Kang and should not even have had MODOK in it, and should have been this more serious drama that doesn't have a million jokes a second. And obviously the other side of the debate says that Kang should have been saved for another movie or maybe another TV series, and this should have just been like a fun, lighthearted movie about Scott and Cassie and Hank Pym and Michelle Pfeiffer. I don't necessarily have a dog in the fight as to which one I prefer, but it definitely should have chosen one. They really shouldn't have tried to mash these two things together. It really didn't work for me. As I've already said, this feels like two movies at the same time, so a lot of things get cut, a lot of things don't get proper development, and the biggest victim of that is the character of Cassie. Now, there's clearly, again, either a Kevin Feige idea that he made Peyton Reed put into the movie, or a Peyton Reed idea that he couldn't let go of and that he just kept in the movie anyway, even though it didn't fit, and for this character arc for Cassie. And on paper, it actually sounds pretty interesting. Like the idea that Cassie was on her own for 5 years while Scott was stuck in the quantum realm, and she grew up on her own, and she develops her skill set and develops a worldview, and maybe that clashes with Scott's worldview in this movie. That sounds interesting. The problem is the movie's not about Cassie, it's about Kang. And so she gets shoehorned in without any real setup, no development or payoff. So she just comes off as a dick. Because haven't learned what she's like. And I had a similar issue with She-Hulk. When Jen Walters is a totally unestablished character and is talking down to Bruce Banner, who's been in the MCU the whole time, since literally the second movie, The Incredible Hulk, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. Now, Jen Walters, She-Hulk, has her own show that's just about her for her character to be built out. Cassie is a side character in this movie, and on top of that, she's being an asshole to maybe the most lovable human being in the history of the planet, the sexiest man alive, Paul Rudd. It's not a great way to endear your character to the audience. The next issue is that the story has a lot of problems. And not even just within this movie, it also has issues as it relates to the rest of the MCU. In particular, the rules of the quantum realm seem to have changed a lot, especially with regards to how time passes. That's normally fine, except that it was a major plot point in probably the most important MCU movie, Avengers Endgame. Additionally, Michelle Pfeiffer, her character's attitude toward the quantum realm in this movie, which in this movie, her attitude is leave it alone, don't talk about it, I don't like the quantum realm, we don't need to do the quantum realm, leave that shit alone. And that attitude has shifted completely from the post-credit scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's completely different. She was not like, I hate the quantum realm, go away from the quantum realm, don't talk about the quantum realm, don't mess with the quantum realm. And Ant-Man with the Wasp, she was all ready to send Scott down there to get materials for something or whatever. I don't even remember. But she was totally cool sending him down there for that. Don't get caught in time vortexes or whatever. And that's a main plot point in the MCU. Scott gets caught down there, and that's how they figure out how to time travel, right? And get the Infinity Stones. So we're kind of breaking the world a little bit when stuff like that happens. You need to come up with something different. And also the way, this isn't relevant, but the way they get into the quantum realm is very reminiscent of my biggest issue with Spider-Man No Way Home. And that people just aren't, characters still communicate with each other. And they would. And these characters would. They're smart enough to talk to each other. The rest of the story issues that I have with the movie are a little hard to get into without talking about spoilers. But if I'm going to be super vague, there's a lot of this is a problem. If there's a problem that this character's having, they shouldn't be able to have the ability to do this. Or why does this character need this item if they can do all this stuff? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you break it down. I've seen a lot of people compare this movie to Star Wars, and I understand the comparison. There's a lot of world building in this movie about the quantum realm, and there are people who live there, and there's a society down there, and there's a way people operate, and they have a lot of weird customs that are kind of reminiscent of Star Wars. I'm a giant Star Wars fan, so I wouldn't say it's anywhere near the same level, considering I had all these issues with this movie. But there is a specific plot point in the third act that reminds me of a certain Star Wars movie. I'm not gonna say which one because that's a little too close to being a spoiler, but let's just say not a good one. All right. And something else that really bothered me was Hope. She doesn't do shit in the whole movie. In the entire runtime, Hope doesn't do a goddamn thing. That's worth noting. Cassie gets way more of a role than Hope, which is ridiculous because Hope is a title character. Hope is literally the Wasp. What the hell? Why isn't Hope doing something in her own damn movie? And for as big as the stakes are supposed to be, as has the trailer where Scott says, I don't have to win, we both just have to lose, where his face is just busted up and Kang's about to mess him up even worse, I was pretty underwhelmed by the stakes in this movie. I thought there was a complete lack of consequences for basically anything, and I felt overwhelmed. I felt underwhelmed by the movie as a whole. Yeah, I'll leave that in. Leave that in. We're not cutting that. I felt underwhelmed by the movie as a whole. Okay, let's finish this thing out by being positive. Let's round out the sandwich correctly with some more good stuff. And first of all, there's two post-credit scenes. One is really important for the MCU as a whole. I thought it was kind of lame, but that's just me. And the second one is the one to get really excited about. That's the one that everyone's going to be talking about. That's got people looking forward to future projects a lot more. I thought the second post-credit scene was much better than the first one. And for all my complaining about this movie, and even though I probably won't recommend this movie to anyone who isn't like a big fan of the MCU, if you are a fan of the MCU, this will be a fun experience for you. Even if, like me, you were pretty disappointed. Paul Rudd is still effortlessly charming and likable. There's still lots of good action. There's some cool CGI sequences, in particular with the whole bunch of Ant-Men. Everyone gets their funny moments. MODOK steals pretty much every scene he's in, and he's very funny even if he kind of breaks the tension at the wrong time. And we also get some really fun moments with some of our new friends that we meet in the quantum realm, some new characters that are also very funny. They add a good bit of levity to the story as well, not that it needed it. Overall, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's reasonably funny, but very messy and poorly thought out and poorly executed movie. In some ways, it's very good for the MCU. In other ways, it kind of contradicts or makes fun of or mocks the MCU, which I don't appreciate. But I would recommend it to every MCU fan and just about no one else. If you had fun listening to me complain my ass off about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, go ahead and click the thumbs up button. I think it helps the algorithm if I knew what that meant. If you disagreed with me, you're wrong, but I'd love to see how your wrong brain works, so please leave a comment and I'll respond to it. Later.